Don't Make Me Think, Revisited by Steve Krug. Picture this. A friend of mine had a flight booked on what turned out to be the most nerve-wracking day imaginable. The airline was locked in tense negotiations with its union, and a strike was hanging in the balance like a sword over everyone's heads. Naturally, he did what you or I would do in that situation. He refreshed his newsfeed obsessively and practically wore out his mouse clicking through the airline's website. His burning question? What's going to happen to my flight? Am I going to be stranded? He landed on the airline's homepage and found absolutely nothing. Not a peep about the looming strike. He scoured the site like a detective searching for clues. He combed through FAQs. He scrolled endlessly through press releases. Everything was business as usual, as if the entire company had collectively decided to ignore the elephant in the room. Think about the absurdity of this for a second. On a morning when hundreds of thousands of anxious customers had one burning question, the airline simply pretended it didn't exist. It was like watching someone stick their fingers in their ears and hum loudly while their house is on fire. My friend's trust in that airline, built on countless flights and millions spent on branding, crumbled like a sandcastle at high tide. But here's the thing. This story isn't just about one company's spectacular failure. It's about something much bigger, a fundamental disconnect in how we design digital experiences versus how human beings actually experience them. It's a failure of basic common sense. And it's exactly the kind of problem that a brilliant observer named Steve Krug decided to tackle with his deceptively simple book, Don't Make Me Think. First published way back in 2000 and lovingly updated over the years, this book has achieved something rare in the tech world. It's become timeless. It's sold hundreds of thousands of copies. Not because it's packed with complex frameworks or cutting-edge trends, but because it contains something far more precious and elusive, profound wisdom wrapped in beautiful simplicity. Krug isn't some ivory tower academic theorizing from a distance. He's a consultant who's spent decades in the trenches, sitting shoulder to shoulder with real people as they navigate the web. He's witnessed their confusion firsthand, felt their mounting frustration, and distilled everything he's learned into one powerful transformative idea. Here's my promise to you. By the time we're done here, you're going to understand this idea so deeply it'll feel like you've developed a sixth sense. You'll start noticing the invisible architecture that makes some websites feel like magic, while others feel like trudging through quicksand. And here's the beautiful part. This isn't just for designers or developers. This is a masterclass in empathy, in communication, in truly seeing the world through someone else's eyes. So settle in. Let's dive into this together. If you cornered Steve Krug at a coffee shop and asked him the single most important thing you could do to make something easy to use, he wouldn't launch into a lecture about sophisticated design principles or cutting-edge technology. His answer would be devastatingly simple. 3 words that change everything. Don't make me think. This is his first law of usability, and everything else revolves around it like planets around the sun. What does it actually mean? It means that when someone glances at a web page or taps around an app, it should be instantly self-evident, crystal clear. They should get it, without having to puzzle over anything. Without burning precious mental energy trying to decode what you meant. Imagine it like this. When design works beautifully, the little thought bubbles floating above your head are calm and confident. Okay, there's the menu, and that's exactly what I need. Click. But when design forces you to think, those thought bubbles fill up with tiny question marks. Wait, is that actually a button? Or just decoration? Why would they call it that? Where on earth do I even begin? Every single one of those question marks is like a tiny tax on what psychologists call our cognitive workload. One or two? Fine. But they add up fast. Soon that tax becomes so burdensome that your confidence in the site and the people behind it starts to crack. You begin to feel like they just didn't care enough to make things clear for you. This is why Krug says our job as creators is simple: eliminate the question marks. But before we can do that, we need to swallow a few hard truths about how people actually use the web. When we're building something, we imagine our users as thoughtful readers in a quiet library, carefully considering every word we've written, weighing their options with deliberation and care. The reality? It's more like trying to read a billboard while speeding past it at 60 miles an hour. This brings us to the first harsh truth about life online. We don't read pages, we scan them. With very few exceptions, nobody reads online, we hunt. We're like sharks in constant motion, scanning frantically for words and phrases that catch our eye, anything that matches what we're searching for. Everything else is background noise. Think about it like a dog named Ginger listening to her owner ramble on. The owner's giving this long, elaborate speech, but all Ginger actually hears is, blah blah blah, Ginger blah blah, Ginger blah blah blah. That's us online. We're listening for our trigger words, things like free, sale, or that specific thing we came here to find. The second truth is equally humbling. We don't make optimal choices, we satisfice. That's not a typo, it's a blend of satisfy and suffice. It means we don't methodically search for the best option. We grab the first reasonable option that crosses our path. As soon as we spot a link that looks like it might, maybe, possibly be what we're looking for, we pounce on it. Why? Because we're in a hurry. Guessing is faster than analyzing. And honestly, the penalty for guessing wrong online is tiny. Just a quick tap of that back button, which happens to be the most used button in any browser. Which brings us to the third, and perhaps most humbling truth. We don't figure out how things work. We muddle through. Almost nobody, when confronted with unfamiliar technology, sits down to carefully read the instructions. Instead, we forge ahead boldly, making up our own stories about what we're doing and why it might be working. We use things with completely wrong ideas about how they actually operate. Krug compares this to a scene from The Prince and the Pauper, where the pauper, suddenly in charge of the kingdom, uses the Great Seal of England as a nutcracker. To him, it was just a conveniently heavy piece of metal that got the job done perfectly. We all do this. We muddle through, and amazingly, it often works. We get stuff done. But this muddling is inefficient and error-prone. When users truly understand how your site works, they're far more likely to find what they need, discover all the wonderful things you're offering, and feel smart and in control while doing it. And that feeling, that's what brings them back. So if this is our reality, a world full of fast-moving, scanning, satisficing, muddling users, what do we do? Krug's answer is beautifully simple. If your audience is going to treat what you build like a billboard, then you'd better learn to design brilliant billboards. And the golden rule of billboard design? Use conventions. Conventions are those standardized ways of doing things we've all grown to expect. Think about a stop sign. It has that specific octagonal shape, that unmistakable red color, that bold white text. Also, drivers can recognize it instantly, in any weather, without a moment's thought. Now imagine if every town got creative and designed their own unique stop signs. It would be absolute chaos. The web has conventions too. We expect a site's logo to live in the top left corner and to whisk us back home when we click it. We expect navigation to stretch across the top, or run down the left side, we all recognize that little shopping cart icon. These conventions are actually our friends because they eliminate the need to think. They make the digital world predictable and comforting. Designers sometimes push back against conventions because they feel they've been hired to be innovative and creative. But Krug's advice is wonderfully pragmatic. Innovate when you genuinely have a better idea, but embrace conventions when you don't. Don't reinvent the wheel just to be different, unless your new wheel is truly revolutionary. The next essential tool for billboard design is creating a clear visual hierarchy. This simply means the most important elements on a page should look the most important. You accomplish this through size, color, boldness, or generous white space. A good visual hierarchy does the heavy lifting for us. It organizes and prioritizes everything so we can grasp the layout almost instantly. When a page lacks clear hierarchy, when everything is shouting for attention simultaneously, we have to do all that exhausting work ourselves. This is also why breaking pages into clearly defined areas is crucial. A well-designed page lets us quickly identify different zones. This is the main content. This is navigation. These are ads I can safely ignore. We make split-second decisions about which parts might be useful, and then we essentially go blind to the rest. Of course, a huge part of scanning involves hunting for what's clickable. As users, we should never waste even a millisecond wondering whether something is a link or not. The visual cues, the color, the underline, the button shape, need to be obvious and unmistakable. And finally, designing a good billboard means keeping the noise down. Visual noise comes in 3 flavors: shouting, when everything's competing for your attention; disorganization, when a page looks like someone ransacked it; and clutter, when there's simply too much stuff crammed in. The solution. Krug offers his third law of usability, which sounds radical, but is dead serious. Get rid of half the words on each page, then get rid of half of what's left. This sounds extreme, right? But he absolutely means it. Eliminating words nobody will read reduces noise, makes useful content pop, and makes pages shorter and less intimidating. The 2 biggest culprits? What he calls happy talk and instructions. Happy talk is that fluffy promotional text welcoming you to a site and telling you how wonderful everything is. It's the "welcome to our website" stuff that conveys exactly 0 real information. It's like small talk at a party, and web users don't have patience for small talk. They want to cut straight to the chase. Instructions are even worse. Here's a simple truth: nobody reads them. The goal should always be making everything so self-explanatory that instructions become unnecessary. If they're absolutely essential, trim them down to the absolute bare minimum. These principles of clarity and simplicity extend far beyond individual pages. They form the foundation of how we find our way around an entire website, the art of navigation. Think about navigating a physical space, like wandering through a department store. You walk in and immediately look for big signs pointing to tools, or lawn and garden to find the right department. Then you check the signs at the end of each aisle. You drill down, level by level, until you find exactly what you need. Navigating a website follows a similar process, but with one crucial, disorienting difference. On the web, we're weightless. There's no sense of scale, no sense of direction, no sense of location. Clicking a link isn't like walking down an aisle. It's like being teleported. 1 second you're here, the next you're somewhere completely different. This is why we're so often lost in space online. Good web navigation compensates for this missing sense of place. It's simultaneously your map, your street signs, and your compass, all rolled into one elegant system. It tells you where you are, what's available here, and how to use the site effectively. That's why every page needs what Krug calls persistent navigation, the set of elements appearing on every single page. This usually includes a few key components. First, the site ID, or logo, acting like the name on a building's front, constantly reassuring you you're still in the same place. Second, the sections, or primary navigation, the main departments of your site. Third, the utilities, helpful tools that aren't content, like sign in, help, or a shopping cart. And finally, a search function. Just as important as the map are the street signs. Every page needs a clear page name, prominently displayed, that matches the link you clicked to arrive there. If you click Hot Mashed Potatoes, you should land on a page titled Hot Mashed Potatoes. Sounds trivial, right? But breaking this silent contract erodes trust and creates confusion faster than almost anything else. To help us know where we are, we need a "You Are Here" indicator, usually done by highlighting the current section in the navigation. And finally, many sites use breadcrumbs, that little trail at the top, showing the path from home to your current location, like home products bivalves. They're a simple, space-saving way to show where you are and make it easy to backtrack. To test whether navigation actually works, Krug created a brilliantly simple exercise called the trunk test. Imagine you're blindfolded, thrown in a car trunk, driven around randomly, then dumped on a page deep inside a website. When the blindfold comes off, you should instantly answer these questions just by glancing around. What site is this? What page am I on? What are the major sections? Where am I in the grand scheme of things? If a page passes the trunk test, its navigation is doing its job beautifully. Now, all these elements converge in the most contested piece of digital real estate in the world, the home page. The home page has an impossibly difficult job. It needs to establish the site's identity and mission, provide an overview of the entire structure, offer search functionality, showcase the best content, display timely updates, accommodate advertising deals, provide shortcuts, and handle user registration, all simultaneously for every single visitor. It's where everyone in the company wants prime real estate, because a link on the home page drives serious traffic. This often creates what Krug calls a, quote, tragedy of the commons, where so many people pile on their own priorities that the page becomes an overgrazed, cluttered mess that serves no one well. Amidst this chaos, the most crucial job of the home page often gets buried, conveying the big picture. When you land on an unfamiliar site, the home page must answer 4 essential questions in those first critical seconds. 1. What is this? 2. What can I do here? 3. What do they have here? 4. Why should I be here and not somewhere else? Getting this right in those opening moments is what Krug calls the Big Bang Theory of web design. Our initial impression forms in milliseconds and is a surprisingly accurate predictor of our overall experience. If we get it immediately, we're far more likely to have a successful visit. If we start confused, we usually just spiral into deeper confusion. A clear tagline next to the logo can work wonders here, a short, punchy phrase summing up the site's purpose. So how do we know if we're getting any of this right? How do we escape our own biases and assumptions? This brings us to the ultimate remedy for bad design. Inside most organizations, discussions about usability often devolve into what Krug calls religious debates. People express passionate personal beliefs about what they like or don't like, and they tend to assume most users are just like them. Designers want stunning visuals. Developers want clever features. Marketing wants bold promises. Everyone's arguing from their own perspective. They get stuck debating the myth of the average user. But here's the truth. There is no average user. All web users are unique, and all web use is deeply personal and idiosyncratic. The right question isn't, do people like drop-down menus? The right question is, does this specific drop-down menu, with these particular words, in this exact context, work well for the people likely to use this site? And there's only one way to answer that question: testing. You don't need an expensive lab or a psychology PhD. Krug champions a beautifully simple, do-it-yourself approach. Once a month, for one morning, recruit 3 ordinary people. Give them a few tasks on your site, and simply watch them. That's it. You sit beside them and ask them to think out loud as they work. The experience is genuinely transformative. Watching someone struggle with something you thought was blindingly obvious is a profound lesson in humility. It reminds you that you are not the user. Testing one user is infinitely better than testing none. And testing one user early in the process beats testing 50 near the end, when meaningful changes become impossible. Usability testing isn't about proving anything. It's about gathering actionable insights. It shifts the conversation from what I like toward what actually works. This entire philosophy of clarity, simplicity, and testing is really about something deeper. It's about seeing usability as common courtesy. Krug suggests imagining that every visitor arrives at our site with a reservoir of goodwill. It's a finite resource. Every time we make them think unnecessarily, every time we hide information they want, every time we punish them for not formatting their phone number our way, we drain a little from that reservoir. If we drain it completely, they leave, and they might never come back. But here's the beautiful part. We can also refill it. We refill it when we anticipate their questions and answer them clearly. We refill it when we save them unnecessary steps. We refill it when we're upfront and honest, even about things like high shipping costs. In short, we refill it when we act like a mensch, that wonderful Yiddish word for a person of integrity and honor, someone who simply does the right thing. This is especially true regarding accessibility. Making our sites usable for people with disabilities isn't just a technical checkbox. It's profoundly the right thing to do, and the single best thing you can do to improve accessibility? First, fix the usability problems that confuse everyone. Because if a site confuses people generally, it'll be exponentially more confusing for someone using a screen reader or other assistive technology. In the end, this little book teaches us that creating things that are easy and pleasant to use isn't rocket science. It's about stepping outside our own heads, seeing the world from someone else's perspective, and having the basic decency to make their journey a little easier. It's about choosing clarity over clutter, empathy over ego, and above all, remembering that on the other side of the screen is a person, a real human being, who, just like us, simply doesn't want to be made to think. As technology has evolved dramatically since this book first appeared, from bulky desktop computers to the sleek, powerful smartphones in our pockets, you might think Krug's advice would feel dated by now. But here's what's remarkable. Don't Make Me Think has become more relevant, not less. The reason is beautifully simple. This book was never really about technology. It's about people. And while technology changes at lightning speed, human psychology changes glacially slowly. The principles Krug lays out, clarity, simplicity, empathy, are timeless, because human nature is timeless. The frustration we feel when we can't find something on a mobile app is exactly the same frustration we felt on a clunky website 20 years ago. The relief we feel when something just works is universal and unchanging. For you, as someone building your own future, this book offers more than practical advice for creating good websites. It offers a powerful mindset applicable to almost anything you'll create, whether it's a class presentation, a project for your first job, or even just an email to a friend. The core lesson is about communication. Before you can be creative or clever or brilliant, you must first be clear. The world is drowning in noise. It's overflowing with clutter and happy talk and unnecessary words. The ability to cut through that noise, to present ideas with simple, elegant clarity, is a genuine superpower. It's a skill that will make you a better writer, a sharper thinker, and a more effective leader. So here are a few simple ways you can start practicing this superpower today. First, try the trunk test in your daily life. Next time you follow a link to an unfamiliar website, give yourself 5 seconds. Can you answer those basic questions? Where am I? What can I do here? If not, why not? Simply noticing moments of confusion is the first step toward understanding how to prevent them. Second, practice Krug's third law on your own writing. Next time you need to write anything, write it out, then go back and try cutting the word count in half. Then cut it in half again. You'll be amazed how much stronger and more impactful your message becomes when you strip away everything non-essential. And finally, start noticing your own question marks as you navigate the digital world. Every time you pause and think, wait, what does that button do? Or where did they hide the settings menu? You're experiencing bad usability. By simply becoming aware of these small friction points, you'll develop an intuition for what works and what doesn't. You'll start seeing the world through the user's eyes. That was the book summary of Don't Make Me Think, Revisited, by Steve Krug. We've certainly touched on the big ideas today, but a summary is like gazing at a map of a beautiful country. The real adventure, the real discovery, happens when you decide to travel there yourself. This book is filled with wonderful illustrations, witty observations, and a depth of common sense that can only be truly appreciated when you read it firsthand. If any of these ideas have sparked something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. It's a quick read that will stay with you for years, changing not just how you see websites, but how you think about communication itself. The link is waiting for you in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you a fresh way to think, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next journey into another transformative book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.